Okay, so I'm very impressed by the way you played most of the instruments on your album. This is what I've read. So did you display musical aptitude from a young age? Was this something your family influenced? Is this something you did growing up?
Yeah, my parents sent me to piano lessons, but I quickly left them because I got quite bored, which I kind of regret now. But
I did exactly the same thing.
Did you really?
Yeah, I really did. 7 to 10 and then just got bored.
Yeah, like 3-4 years of it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird. That's
that
7 to 10. That was probably the
really?
age. Yeah.
Then sorry. So then what, you just then started playing different instruments?
Yeah, my brother played guitar. He used to listen to lots of 60s music and stuff like that, and I used to copy him, and he gave me my first guitar basically and showed me the chords, and I had written a song in the first week of learning the first chords basically. I straight away was really excited about that whole side of things, so I put away my paintbrushes and picked up the guitar.
Ah, that's interesting, because that sort of leads on to my next question. So could there have been another outlet for your creativity? So I was wondering, could you have worked in film or written novels? You just mentioned paintbrushes. Could you have worked in the art world? So, or do you think your creativity is specifically about music?
I think it's well, I did the artwork on the album as well. I do all the Villages artwork, so I'm really into painting and drawing, and I just finished it. I came back from Australia a few days ago and was horribly jet lagged, and spent the 2 days just not sleeping and just staying up and drawing a big picture, and I'm really happy with it. I'm probably going to use it for something eventually. So I'm into visual art as well, and I'm into certain artists that mainly kind of expressionist kind of stuff, and Egon Schiele in particular is one of my favourites.
I've got one of his paintings hanging in my sitting room.
Really?
I really do.
Oh my god, we're finding out a lot about this.
Sorry,
a lot in common here.
Yeah, it's just because we've got something in common. I'm not actually that egocentric. So do you actually, just leading on from that, you were saying you were jet lagged, like, is that sort of the typical, state of mind that you need to be creative, or? To be jet lagged, tired, I don't know, some people say they're more creative when they're drunk or whatever.
I hope it's not drunk, I don't want to become an alcoholic.
Or on coffee.
On coffee, yeah. Coffee. Usually I quite like trying to do stuff at night time, because it's sort of, there's something about the night which is, you can sort of let yourself go a bit more and turn off your phone and just, all that stuff. But other than that, no. I try to probably drink a lot of tea, various types of tea.
Barry's tea, I hope?
Perhaps.
So I understand that the album began in a very personal way, so correct me obviously if I'm wrong, that you did most of the writing alone, and then you recorded the demo in your friends Ashik and Donegal, is that right? Or?
Yeah, we recorded the album.
So, but within a matter of months it was nominated for the Mercury Music Prize, which is amazing. So how do you feel about making something personal and becoming so public, and how do you feel about that transition, and is it in your mind when you're creating music?
It's in your mind, I think. I definitely write the songs with the idea of performing them to people. I don't write them just for myself. And I try to, if I do have a song which I think is particular and personal, I do make a concerted effort to, actually write it in such a way that I think it would connect with other people, even if their lives were completely different, sort of thing. So I try to make them social, sort of, things, I guess, and I imagine performing them, the active performance is very important in the construction of the song, and it actually changes the way the song is written sometimes. So yeah, they're sort of what was the first half of the question again?
So I understand that it's kind of very personal, like, I don't know, just
I think it can come from a personal place, but for me, I'm not necessarily, if I use like the first person, if I say me and I in a song, I'm not always talking about me, I'm sort of using...
It's a character or whatever,
character studies, the old sort of Randy Newman trick of trying to inhabit other people, Okay.
Well, I've actually got a question related to that a little bit later, but I firstly wanted to ask you this. The album has been described as soulful, otherworldly and romantic, which I absolutely agree with, and hopefully you do, but it's not too when you don't take it in a bad way. But the sound is not quintessentially Irish, I would say. So when I first heard your music, I didn't realise you were an Irish band.
Okay.
And so my attraction to you wasn't related to that in any way, you know, it was just so I was wondering, was this a deliberate move to move away from the Irish singer-songwriter tag, or was it, you know, not contrived at all? Was it just a natural consequence of your influences in writing?
I'd say the latter more so, definitely. Like I think it would have been a very negative place to try and put yourself up against something and then move away from it. I don't know, when I was growing up I was probably listening to just as many American and English bands as I was Irish music as well, you know. I wasn't going to loads of local Irish gigs, so maybe I just didn't soak that in, and I just sort of used whatever I was getting influenced by at the time. So I don't know. I'm also not the most social person. I sort of have a very close group of friends, so I wouldn't be going to gigs all the time these days either, and I wouldn't be taking things in. I'd just kind of read a book and then be influenced by that. And like the whole album was mainly influenced by Hermann Hesse, which is a book called Narcissus and Goldmund.
Okay.
Which is, I'd recommend, go and get it. It's incredible.
We will be reading that.
It's amazing. But basically the album was trying to be a musical version of that book.
Right. So it was just you dipping into the things that you are interested in.
Yeah. Well, I found like a friend gave it to me after I'd written half the album, and I'd sort of realised I was preoccupied with these ideas of humans as animals and our scavenging aspects, and I sort of I was trying to bring us back down to the base. Like even if I was talking about love in a song, I wanted to put it right beside, you know, puking, shitting.
Yeah, so you just wanted to take the romance right out.
It's not the most romantic album in the world. But this book that I read was all about this man's journey and how he changed and grew in medieval Germany during the Black Death, and he suddenly had to do horrible things to survive. And I was really like, wow, that's so cool. It's really sort of focusing on the human psyche and how, you know.
So kind of like, you know, kind of the limits of what a human would do in such a situation.
Yeah, and then looking at this so-called civilized world that we live in and seeing the sort of
how fragile it potentially is.
Yeah, which is we're seeing more and more these days.
Indeed, we are.
Yeah.
So on to the last question, slightly different note, but so some of the lyrics have a dark, vaguely sinister sort of feel, and some are potentially cynical. And obviously, I'm talking about the character, like you mentioned these characters before. So I was wondering what inspired this, and you know, maybe it relates back to some of the stuff you've already said, but. You know, is it trying to like reflect humanity in a certain light and just be like have an honest appraisal of such things or something like that?
I think so. I don't know. Sometimes when I'm writing the songs, I don't usually have an aim for the song. I try and let it just come out. So I can only ever talk about the song after the fact, and I only usually figure out what I think I was meaning after I've written it and after I've sang it to people a few times. But for instance, a song like The Meaning of the Ritual, which is sort of a twisted love song, it's an opposite take on love.
Yeah.
That was one song where I did think to myself, I want to write a love song, but I don't want to put love on a pedestal like every other love song does. I want to sort of bring it back down to earth and sort of... and in some ways, I think that's the root of, you know, blues music and folk music. It's all about... Even if a song is incredibly cynical, as you said, or comes from a place where not necessarily is the most positive place, if it's sort of written with a feeling of empathy towards people, an idea of presenting it to people, that it can actually be quite a hopeful thing for me. You know, the most cynical and boring thing for me is music that disregards the negative aspects of life and disregards you know, sadness and disregards all the darkness in the world, and I wanted to put all that into the song. So.
Yeah, so it's across the spectrum, it's not in some...
Yeah, and I hope it's, you know, not all heavy, because
no, absolutely
then
not.
I'd sort of, you know, be worried about myself.
Some of your music I have been known to dance around to, so...
Awesome.
And I might do that tonight, no promises. But that's it. And
oh, cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you should become an interviewer, you're very good at it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I've got another line of duty.
Okay.
But actually I work in the psychological research